Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers likely won't be going after Carlos Correa. They won't be going after Xander Bogaerts for sure because Xander Bogaerts is going to the Padres and Aaron Judge signed, but not with the Giants. So that's what's on tap. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. If this is your first time listening or watching, I'm Vince Samperio. I'm usually joined by co-host Jeff Snider, but I will be going solo today as Jeff was driving back to Utah after being at the winter meetings. So you're getting me today, and if you have an issue with that, I'm sorry. But either way, Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have spent time covering the Dodgers in a couple of ways, continue to cover the Dodgers in a couple of ways, and have been able to cover the Dodgers in the press box, in the locker room, stuff like that. But we're not quite insiders. We're just here to bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue. You can find Locked On Dodgers wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Subscribe in both of those places and never miss a day because you know we're not going to. All right. So a lot happened on Wednesday. Not a lot happened for the Dodgers, but a lot happened for other people. And we're going to start off with Carlos Correa and the report by Ken Rosenthal saying the Dodgers doing shortstop Carlos Correa in part out of concern that a sizable portion of their fan base would not welcome the move. And then he went on to say that um, he went on to add that the distaste Dodger fans harbor for Correa, however, would not be the only reason the club might be reluctant to engage with him, or for that matter, any of the other more expensive players on the free agent market. He then went on to say that as the Dodgers wait to learn about MLB's if they're going to uphold Trevor Bauer's 2-year suspension and the back pay and everything else, and that's the reason the Dodgers aren't going after any big time players, any throwing any big money or might not throw any big money out because if the suspension is overturned, then the Dodgers could have to pay up to 100 million total. Bauer's salary is 60 million for that time if let's just say it gets reversed, but with the payroll and with the luxury tax and everything else, the Dodgers end up paying about 100 mil. And then Kids Rosenthal went on to add that the wide range of possible outcomes is one reason the Dodgers plan to incorporate a young minimum salary type player or a number of young minimum salary type players this season. They want to add a modestly priced starting pitcher, an affordable center fielder such as Kevin Kiermaier, and a middle of the order bat. And then he went on to add that JD Martinez would make sense, though a left-handed hitter might be a better fit. Finishing up with, but the Dodgers are unlikely to spend big, especially when they know the market next offseason might include two players they covet, Shohei Ohtani and Japanese right-hander Roki Sasaki, if he is posted by his Japanese team. So that's a lot right there to unpack. First, let's just get into the Bauer situation. It Rosenthal said, and Bill Shaken had another article that said that the Dodgers are expecting to hear about what the decision is later this month, being December or into next month, January. And I guess that's influencing decisions. This Rosenthal report, I'm not buying everything that's been said. I would imagine that some parts of it are true. The part that doesn't get me, and listen, if the Bauer suspension's overturned, yeah, they're on the hook for last year's salary. They'll be on the hook if assuming Bauer opts into his third year of his deal, which, with a guy like Bauer, you never know if he ends up getting the suspension lifted, getting his back pay from the last 2 years, or last season because he was paid suspension or paid leave on the first year. He could be a guy that just opts out and says, I don't want to deal with the Dodgers and become a free agent. Whether all that is what's really dictating it, I don't know. The Dodgers have money, and if they want to, they can pay whoever they want, and it wouldn't be an issue, even with a suspension overturned, making them pay up to 100 million in salary and Latin tax penalties. So I don't think that's what's holding the Dodgers back. I think maybe they don't love a lot of the players, or they don't love the way the market's going this offseason, where a lot of players are getting more money than initially thought. But I don't think that it's because of that entirely. I do think that, maybe it's playing a small part of it. The part with Correa, I don't know, to have it out there, whoever it is, whatever source or whoever it is saying that the Dodgers won't go after Correa in part out of concern of the fan base. I don't buy that at all. I think it's an easy thing to say in order to justify not spending big money for Carlos Correa. And what front office is operating, personnel wise, what front office is operating off what the fans think? There's not a lot of front offices that are doing that. Now, yes, if there was, an actual issue, like a tangible, convicted, like crime, felony, something like that, sexual assault or assault or whatever it is, then yeah, you can say, that's justifiable. Okay, yeah, the fan base, we don't want to deal with that PR, negative PR, like they did with the Roldis Chapman after, the incident, and they ended up, nixing that trade that was going to bring Chapman to LA. That makes sense. For something like this, yes. Are there a lot of fans that won't accept Carlos Correa? Initially, yeah, I do think that people would ease up over time. Would he get booed? Probably every home game the entire 2023 season and beyond, and beyond. Yeah, probably, likely. But for that to justify your decision, that's not smart business in terms of on field and personnel. Because if you want a player of Carlos Correa's caliber and you go get him, and the issue should be coming from Correa's side of, do I want to sign somewhere where I'm going to get booed every single home game, and I already get booed pretty much every single road game, and do I want to go through that personally? That's where the hesitancy should come from Correa's side. It shouldn't be coming from the Dodgers side, because realistically, the Dodgers signed Carlos Correa. You're still going to lead the league in attendance. You're still going to have that. And the only negative part is, yeah, you're going to have a home player getting booed every time he comes to the bat. And I don't know why the Dodgers would be worried about that, because that'll mean that people were in the seats booing him. So I don't buy that part. It's just a matter of, if the Dodgers, it's going to be hard. But if the Dodgers would have just came out and said, you know what, we're looking to reset, our luxury tax. We're looking to incorporate some of these younger players. And, we'll explore some options this offseason, but, we're not necessarily looking to spend. That's more, maybe, getting the fan base riled up, but that's more on board of what's exactly that's happening right now. And, I would respect that for all this. And Ken Rosenthal, his Dodgers sources, we don't know exactly who it is. We don't know exactly what it is. He's been wrong on a couple things in the past with the Dodgers, but he's hit on a couple things in the past with the Dodgers. So, he probably has someone in there, but we don't know exactly who it is. So, take some of this stuff with a grain of salt. Maybe the Dodgers are saying that just to throw people off the scent. I don't know. But I don't buy all of it. I buy partial, parts of it. Like I said, are the Dodgers hesitant to sign Carlos Correa because of the fan base? Yeah, I'm sure they're a little hesitant, but I don't think that's a reason. I don't even think it's, should be more than 5% of a reason. Are the Dodgers waiting for Bauer? Yeah, I guess they are. But should that prevent them from spending big money if someone came? No, I don't think it should. And then when it comes down to it, to say you're looking for a modestly priced starter and then a cheap center fielder and then a big bat, it's, I don't know. It feels a little disingenuous to be like, yeah, that's what we're looking for. That's too specific of a wish list. Now, this could be Rosenthal, reporting slash adding in some of his stuff. The wording he used is the wide range of possible outcomes is one reason the Dodgers are planning to incorporate a number of young in them. And then he said they want to add a modestly priced starting pitcher, center fielder, and middle of the order bat. Is that his wording? Is that wording that he heard from a source? I don't know. But if the Dodgers want to just cut salary, just let us know you want to cut salary. Realistically, this team's still good enough to win 90 plus games as constructed right now, and that's the way it goes. Sometimes you can't spend 290 mil every single year, or you could, but you can choose not to it because of penalties and everything else, and that's fine. So I'll touch a little bit more on this as it gets into the next topic of Xander Bogaerts. But first, let's talk about BetOnline, because BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for all your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. They've also got sports podcasts there at BetOnline as well. So head to BetOnline on your laptop and mobile device, learn more about the action, get your betting fix. They're the fastest and easiest way to do that. Bet Online, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast for your second listen. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. All right, next part is Xander Bogaerts. Won't be signing with the Dodgers because he signed with the Padres an 11-year, $280 million deal. And I guess a bit of a stunner in the overall sense, not so much a bit of a stunner knowing that the Padres have been throwing money around to these free agents, or trying to throw money around to these free agents the last week or so. They supposedly offered Trey Turner 340 mil to, try to get him over here. They reportedly offered Aaron Judge 400 mil over 10 years, although Ken Rosenthal said that they didn't offer him that. Bob Nightingale said that they did, so who knows. But whatever the case, they didn't get either of those guys. Those guys each chose other teams. And then Xander Bogaerts said, you know what, you want to throw me 280 mil for 11 years? I'm going to do it, and let's make it happen. And that's what's happened. And, first of all, it's a kind of an, I wouldn't say a huge overpay, but I don't know if anyone thought that Xander Bogaerts was going to get near 300 mil. If anything, it was, Correa and Trey Turner were going to be 300 mil or close to it. Xander Bogaerts that next tier, and then Xander Swanson that, next tier after that, but a little bit closer to Xander just because he was, or a little bit closer to bigger money overall because he's a little bit younger. But, you know, the Padres wanted to apparently add, another top tier talent. That's what they did. And it shifts stuff around for them. Now Hassan Kim's going to play second base. Machado stays at third, Cronenworth at first. Looks like Tatis will probably play the outfield, more than likely right field. Then moves Soto to left field. You got Grisham in center, Nola in a catcher. Now, the Padres are hedging a little bit here in the not with the hopes, but with the thought that Manny Machado's probably going to opt out at this point. Manny Machado's seeing all this big money thrown around, even for guys into their early 30s. I believe he can opt out, and he'll be 31 at the time he can opt out. So he'll still be able to maybe get another $250-300 million deal on top of it, just the way the market's going, and if he has another season like he did last season. So it seems like a little bit of a hedge against that, a little bit of a hedge of if Juan Soto, doesn't accept some other big time market deal to stay with the Padres. So that, it looks a lot right now. Like, let's just say Manny Machado opts in, then yeah, you have Manny Machado, 300 mil over the 10 years. You have Tatis's 340 mil over the however many years he got. And you have Bogaerts 280 mil over the 11 years. Now, the Bogaerts deal, the AAV is not that high because it's such a long deal. So that saves you a little bit in terms of, whatever it is. But This seems like a move for the Padres where they're trying to strike while the iron's hot. They are trying to get at least that World Series out of the way and then, kind of deal with some of this stuff later if it doesn't work out. And, it makes sense for them. Peter Seidler, or I think it's Peter Seidler, their owner, he's willing to spend. AJ Preller's willing to spend if he's given the go ahead to spend, and they're going for it. And we you got to respect it in that sense of they're trying to win and they're doing whatever they need to in order to make that happen. We got a message from our guy Blue Goon, or he replied to my tweet after the Bogaerts deal. Said, "I'm sure you guys will be optimistic, but Padres really closing the gap now. Their top four position players better than Dodgers top four. Their rotation is comparable to gap closed." And honestly, I believe that gap of that what he specifically said was closed last year. I think it was, with and well, it was closed, but not necessarily because Tatis didn't end up playing. But last year, Machado, Soto, would have been Tatis. They had guys that were comparable. Their top of the food chain was very comparable to the Dodgers. Yeah, the Dodgers had Mookie, Freddie, and Trey, and then you go into like Will Smith and Max Muncy and all that after that. But I think last year they closed the gap in terms of lineup, like close enough lineup, especially since they had some guys that, they added Josh Bell, they added Brandon Drury, they had, those guys who, even though they didn't play as well as they did before the trade, in theory, they had, the talent there. Grisham had the talent, just kind of sucked last year, similar to Bellinger in center field. You know, Nola, Will Smith is way better hitter than Nola, but Nola came through a couple times in the postseason where Will Smith, missed out a couple times. But and then rotation wise, I think the Padres were already kind of there with the Dodgers, anyways, with Musgrove and Darvish. I would take Julio and Bueller over those, but then when they lost Bueller, Julio and Kirsch over Musgrove and Darvish, who knows? Clevenger never really worked out for them. Chamonix never worked out for them last year. So, they had that. And then they had one other starter I'm blanking right now. Oh, Blake Snell. Blake Snell struggles against everybody else, not against the Dodgers for the most part. So that was always weird. But yeah, I think the gap was somewhat closed last year. And where the difference is the depth. The Dodgers have that depth. And that's why the Dodgers, one reason the Dodgers have been able to win the regular season and outlast and outplay the Padres is because if guys get hurt, the Dodgers can withstand it. And the Dodgers, have a stronger 1 through 25 than pretty much any other team out there. Now, like I said, it doesn't always matter, and it hasn't always mattered in October because it's a little bit different game. Series are shorter. Your depth doesn't. You don't really need too much depth to win a series, especially a 5-game series. Um, you just need your players to perform, and the Dodgers players, hitters, didn't really perform to the standard last year. But yeah, what does it mean? I mean, yeah, the Padres are a good team, and they have probably one of the best lineups now, top to bottom. I mean, you just look at it, across the diamond: Cronenworth, Kim, Bogarts, Machado. Kim, strong defensively, had a pretty decent season offensively. All three other guys are probably above average offensively. You got Soto, Grisham, Tatis. Soto, Tatis likely be above average offensively. Grisham just depends how he shows up. Ostanola behind the plate, he can be above average offensively for a catcher. DH wise, I don't know exactly if they have anybody yet, but they have the lineup. Rotation wise, Musgrove, Darvish, and Snell is a pretty good top three. Bullpen wise, they still have Hader. They brought back Martinez, who I don't know if he's going to start or relieve. They brought back Suarez, paid money for him. So yeah, that part is good. Over the course of a year, I'd still believe the Dodgers have the better depth. But yeah, the Padres have closed the gap a little bit, and with having Soto the entire year, and then if they go after another DH type or another starter or whatever the case is, yeah, they're gonna be right up there with the Dodgers for the NL West, especially if the Dodgers don't make any more moves and do kind of hinge on the young players working out and then the other veteran players, bouncing back. Chris Taylor bouncing back from his season last year. Max Muncy having a full season of bounce back after, struggling the first few months last season. So, yeah, it's gonna push the Dodgers. And what I do think is happening for the Dodgers is, let's see. I I think they don't mind a little regular season adversity at this point. The last time it happened was 2018, really. That's when they went to game 163. And then they grinded through the playoffs, or they grinded through that Brewers series, at least a 7-game series with the Brewers that year. They grinded through that and pushed through, and that was a hard fought series, which, when you look back at it, that's probably one of the best series the Dodgers have played in terms of, like, yeah, that was a fun, good series, and the Dodgers came through at times when needed. Justin Turner had that big home run when needed. Cody Bellinger had the walk-off hit. Yasiel Puig and Chris Taylor had the big play, and Cody Bellinger had the big plays in Game 7 of that series. So that's what it comes down to. And yeah, how are the Padres good? Yes. Will they challenge or possibly beat the Dodgers for the NOS? Yeah, it's possible. Do I think they have the better team 1 through 25? No, but do I think they have the better team maybe 1 through 10? Yeah, right now probably. So, props to the Padres. We'll see what happens. And it's going to go from there. And it just makes it, I think the Dodgers getting pushed is not going to be a bad thing. And I think the Dodgers potential, they have not won. It's a matter of like 2021. Yeah, that's the year, they were fighting for the division, but they had a legit team. They won 106 games. They would have won the division every other year if the Giants didn't have that fluke season. Whereas, like, more like 2018, they didn't win 100 games. They were kind of fighting through the whole regular season, and they did have to fight into, game 163. So I don't see that being a huge problem. I think that, and I think it's going to make some of the young grow up faster if it does come down to it toward the season. And if it's just going to be a weird, interesting season if, these young guys are thrust into the world, it doesn't end up working out. Natural injuries that do happen, their pitching rotation at this point is, more hope than hype. And, it could be interesting, but I don't. Jeff and I will probably talk about this a little bit more on tomorrow's episode of, is this a necessary year to happen? Is this something that they should be doing? All that kind of stuff. So let me talk about BetOnline again real quick because I forgot to talk about it yesterday. So BetOnline is the number one source for all your sports betting info, news, and analysis. They've got all the latest trends and everything for all the latest trends and odds for all the sports, all the amateur sports, all the professional sports, basketball, soccer, esports, football. They got it all at betonline.net. They got sports podcasts there as well. So, if you're done with our podcast, you can go check out whatever podcast they got going on over there. BetOnline.net is the number one source for all your betting needs. Check it out on your laptop or mobile device. See all the action, see everything going on. BetOnline.net is there for you. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's finish up with what started the day as the biggest news in baseball. Ended up becoming the third biggest news regarding the Dodgers specifically, and that's Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge signed a 9-year, $360 million deal with or not with the Giants, with the Yankees. He spurned the Giants to sign with the Yankees. The report was that the Padres made a late push. Uh, some reports say they never made a formal offer. Some reports, Bob Nightingale's report said they offered 10 years, 400 mil. Whatever the case, the Padres had at least a meeting with him, and then the Yankees ended up signing him. All the reports say that the Yankees had the 8-year, I think $320 million deal on the board. The Giants were willing, or had been willing, to go up to the 360 that Aaron Judge was talking to. One of the Steinbrenners said he needs that 9th year. The Yankees added that 9th year. Aaron Judge came back, and that was that. So, sorry, Giants. Didn't get the guy. But the other reports that came out, or one of the reports that came out also, was that everything Aaron Judge did was kind of pushing the Yankees. That when he got talked to in San Francisco, when he was in San Francisco in that hotel and someone caught him in the lobby, that was staged. And, talking with the Giants, talking with whoever, all this other stuff that was going on, it was all just a matter of playing the free agency game and, kind of scaring the Yankees into giving him the deal that he wanted per se, which is if I'm sure Aaron Judge would have signed with the Giants if they offered, if they were the only $360 million offer that he got. But for all this to just be a ruse to sign with or get the Yankees to, it's basically like someone posting on their Instagram story or something like that of, two wine glasses, and they want a certain someone to see that. That's kind of how this was. Like Aaron Judge is like, oh, I want the Yankees to see this. Let me get it out there, and then maybe they'll hit me up, or maybe they'll give me the contract I want in this sense. So if that was the case, well played by him. He got 360 mil. He got the 9 years. After rejecting the $213 million extension the year before. So yeah, props to Aaron Judge. Sorry to the Giants. The Giants might go after Correa now. They can't go after Bogaerts. Maybe they go after Swanson. The this was a big miss for the Giants because a lot of the guys are starting to sign or have already signed, and they're going to miss. Correa's still there. That's the big one. If they can still get him, then they can salvage it. They did sign Mitch Haniger to a 3-year deal, so they did pick up at least one outfielder. But if they leave this offseason without Judge or Correa, and they go after, guys like Mitch Haniger, maybe they bring Rodon back, maybe they sign someone else. There's not really, Brandon Nimmo, maybe they sign him. That'd be pretty disappointing if you were a Giants fan, which doesn't bother us. But either way, the Giants are the third best team in the division, regardless. Even if they did sign Carlos Correa and bring back Rodon, they're still the third best team in the division, fighting with the D-backs for third and fourth place. And maybe competing for a wild card, competing for a wild card spot. They're not legitimately going to challenge the Dodgers or the Padres unless a lot happens. So, yeah, Aaron Judge won't be in the NOS. That's a good sign. And it's just been, a whirlwind of an offseason. And now when you look at it on the Dodgers side, what's left, and there's not a lot left. There's two of the big shortstops out there, but supposedly they're not going to be, they're not going to spend big money for Correa and anything else. Wilson Contreras also signed with the Cardinals. The Dodgers were never in on him, but that's just a move that did happen. For the Dodgers, I mean, shortstop wise, Elvis Andrews, I don't know what the Dodgers are thinking. Like, are they legitimately gonna give Gavin Lux the keys if they don't get a Correa or Swanson at this point, or trade for like a guy like Adames? Or yeah, I don't know. I guess that's possible. Do they bring back Justin Turner now if the deal's right? I don't know. Do they go after a guy like Benintendi or Nimmo for the outfield? Probably not Benintendi. Just because he's not an everyday center fielder type. He's more of a corner outfielder, but he would fit kind of what they need a little bit. Is Kevin Kiermaier going to be that guy in center field? There's really nobody else if he's not that guy. Um, so yeah, there's not a lot out there. JD Martinez was a name thrown around. Maybe we'll talk about him on tomorrow's episode. If it's a cheap 1-year deal, sure, or not cheap, but if it's a 1-year deal or like a 1-1 with an opt out, sure, JD Martinez. But based on what he did last year, I don't love that move, but it would be, a move, I guess, because it's a matter of you need a DH if Max Muncy's going to play in the infield, and if Max Muncy's going to play third or second, then yeah, you can look at a guy like JD Martinez and maybe think about getting him in there. But I mean, you just look at his season last year, and it was still decent, but not what 789 OPS, still pretty good, but 16 homers. Didn't quite have the power that he's had in the past. It's a matter of him getting old. He's 35 years old now. He was still an all-star last year. He did have the strong first half. Still had 43 doubles. Still didn't have 145 strikeouts. Not like, oh my god, an insane amount of strikeouts, but still not still a little, if you're around 150 strikeouts, that's still kind of a lot of strikeouts. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going to happen now with this Dodgers team. I was excited for the offseason, and now as the days go by, honestly, realistically, it's less exciting. And if this Rosenthal report, I take it with a grain of salt. I still think if there's a move to be made, the Dodgers are going to do it. They're not going to let anything stand in their way. In that, if that's the case, but I do think that they're okay with going the route of Miguel Vargas. You're playing more often. James Outman, you're playing more often. Michael Bush, you're maybe getting a chance. Maybe down the line in the regular season, Andy Pajes, if he has a good strong season to start off, you can go. Bobby Miller, Gavin Stone, you guys can get a couple turns through the rotation. I do believe they're comfortable with that because the rest, they do have a strong core still. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Will Smith. That's a strong three right there. And then you fill in with, if Max Muncy can get back to Max Muncy, then that's a strong four right there. Gavin Lux can be first half Gavin Lux, then and Chris Taylor comes back and Miguel Vargas can be, one of those guys. You just need a lot to go right. Your your margin for error is a little bit lower, and you're not. I don't think you're playing with fire for a playoff spot. You're playing with fire more so for the division, which I don't know. The division might not mean as much anymore, or maybe the Dodgers are, want to see some, like I said, players fight through or the team fight through adversity or play through the entire regular season, and maybe still, I think the ideal for the Dodgers would be that they win the division by a few games, but at the end of it, ball, they're not going full bore for all 162 like they had to in 2021. I think they, would be like full bore for like 150 games and then, finish out the season. Whatever the case, whatever it is. But this offseason definitely just got a lot more interesting for the Dodgers, and we'll see what happens. So that's all for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Check out Locked On Sports today for your second listen. Go beyond the scoreboard, behind the scenes with local experts, insights only Locked On can provide. Wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube, Locked On Sports today. Locked On Dodgers is also wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vince Samperio. DMs are open on all those accounts if you need to get a hold of us. DMs are also open, or no, DMs are open on all those accounts. Our email is open, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, and our number for voicemail or text is 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, search My Device Play Podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree, you just have to listen. Have a good one.